Good morning, everyone. I hope you had wonderful 2 days and good intense sessions, discussions about the business and the way forward for the FY23. So we are on in the last leg of our concluding conference, and for that we have an eminent guest who would be giving us his part of wisdom to share with us what he has learned in so far so many years. This reminds me a quote of great J.R.D. Tata. He once said that he doesn't want all Indians to be rich and famous. He wants all Indians to be happy, and this is what Guruji will be guiding us all about to have how to have work life balance between this pandemic times and this challenging times. How do we keep motivate ourselves? So I'll just like to call Mr. Anil Kumar to give a brief introduction about Guruji, and then we will take it forward. Mr. Anil Kumar, please.
A very good morning to all. It is my pleasure to speak about Gauranga Das. I warm welcome to you, sir. Gauranga Das, a graduate from IIT Bombay, is a mindful mediation expert, strategic character, educationalist, sustainability and climate change warrior, and social welfare catalyst. A member of effectiveness and governance of temples and communities globally. Gauranga Das is director of ISKCON's Govardhan Eco Village, founded by Radhanath Swami. The GV has won several awards, including United Nations World Tourism Organization Award in 2017. He has enabled GVS accreditation to multiple United Nations bodies like UNEP, UNCCD, ECOSOC, and CBD. On behalf of ISKCON, he is UNEP's Faith for Earth Counselor. He sits on the board of Govardhan School and Public Leadership that prepares students for the civil services exam. He is also administrative director of Bhakti Vedanta Research Center, which creates libraries of Vedic literatures and manuscripts and facilitate MA and PhD program in philosophy. He is also the author of Art of Resilience and Art of Focus. Owing to his expertise of presenting Vedic knowledge in a contemporary and enticing way, he has spoken TEDx events and corporates like Intel, Salesforce, Google, etc. He's inaugurated the Govardhan Annakshetra program at the Govardhan Eco Village with an intention to distribute free food amongst the pilgrims and villagers in Palghat district. And I would request yes wrote how to focus. The book is available here. Overall interested, they can purchase the book. So I once again I warm welcome to Gaurangadas. Thank you.
Honorable CEO Subrata ji and your team of wonderful leaders who have assembled from all over India, a warm welcome to this morning session, and I'm going to speak on the art of happiness. I'm going to share a very simple formula, and I call it the escape formula, because nowadays people need some kind of formula to remember. Otherwise, at the end of 1 hour, you ask, "Kya bola?" Bole, "Arey, kuch to bola." So the escape formula is basically beginning with E for expectation. When I was studying in IIT Bombay in 89 to 93, I had an interesting experience which transformed the paradigm for me. And I've shared about it in some of my podcasts also. So there was this friend of mine who was a very fantastic student, would always be almost the topper. And then the results of one of the exams came. Thoda badana, volume. And then in that particular exam, it was towards the final year, the results came out. And then just after that, I heard that this friend of mine has attempted to commit suicide. Now, why I use the word attempted? Because he was trying to hang himself from a rope in the fan, and he underestimated his weight. So the rope broke and he survived the attempt. And I went to him and said, "Arey, you are always the topper, itna acha marks aata hai, aapka kya problem hai?" So he said, "I'm always used to coming number one and getting gold medal. इस बार के एग्जाम में सिल्वर मेडल मिला. My mind could not accept it. And therefore, I became so overwhelmed with emotion because the gap between expectation and reality creates stress and anxiety. And so, I tried to commit suicide. That was shocking for me. I said, अरे इसके पास सब कुछ है, सेकंड नंबर आ गया, क्या प्रॉब्लम है? नहीं. Many times reality is defined by our expectation. And in the same exam, 4 or 5 of my other friends, they failed in 4 subjects. 4 subject में फेल हो गए, but they were moving around the campus blissfully, peacefully, as if nothing happened, blessing everybody. And I approached them and said, अरे बड़े बेशरम हो तुम लोग, 4 सब्जेक्ट में फेल हो गए फिर भी घूम रहे हो. तो बोले हम लोग का फिलॉसफी सिंपल है, कॉलेज में घुसना अपना काम है, निकालना कॉलेज का काम. That was the first time I realized the modern education system needs to add one more dimension apart from skill, and that is will. If we are only focused on skill, but circumstances change, it affects our will, our motivation, our inspiration. And as members working in the corporate, all of you know that you have all the skills, but someday you get up and you feel mood nahi ho raha. क्यों करें? I have visited people in the ICUs in hospital and I asked them, why did you get this heart attack? आपके पास तो बंगला है, गाड़ी है, सब कुछ है, हार्ट अटैक क्यों आ गया? मैं प्रमोशन एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा था और 2 लेवल नीचे वाले को प्रमोशन मिल गया. I could not handle it. Are these descriptions given in the MBA textbooks? No. But these are realities. And therefore, dear friends, in the escape formula for happiness, the first is E, which is expectation. We are teaching people how to manage operations, how to manage finance, how to manage strategy, how to manage human resource. But we as the students of Bhagavad Gita are trying to teach you how to manage your expectations. What is the difference between success and happiness? Success is to get what you like, and happiness is to like what you get. And therefore, it is very important to realize that circumstances will not always be in your control. You have limited control over your circumstances, but you have unlimited control over your consciousness. And so, at that moment, I decided that I'm studying technology. But what about the inner technology? What about the technology within? And so I started studying the Bhagavad Gita and understood deeper and deeper that yes, Gita was spoken to Arjuna, who was on the battlefield, and he suddenly experienced change in circumstances. And so I started thinking, Are Gita is so famous, but why is it that people don't know about it and its relevance? Then I realized that the message may be as important as possible, but if it is not communicated and conveyed in the right manner, you don't get it. The relevance is not there. There was this Coke company, Cola company, which was distributing and selling cold drink in Middle East. And they wanted to make a sales campaign for their drink. And they thought of an advertising campaign. And that advertising campaign had 3 sections in the ad. In the first section, they showed a man in the desert riding a camel. In the Middle East, desert is very common. And riding on the camel, the sun is beating on his head. That is the first slide in that campaign. Then the second slide showed in the same ad that after being so affected and is looking morose, he takes a cool drink in his hand, that particular Coke, and starts drinking it. That was the middle slide. He's drinking and drinking and drinking. And the third slide showed after drinking, he's smiling. He's in ecstasy. Sari garmi dur ho gayi. He's happy. But they found that the sales of the cool drink is not increasing. And then they were wondering why. The campaign has been designed great. The effectiveness should be there. The pictures are brilliant. But why the sales are not increasing? Someone came and said, Sir, this is Middle East. They write and read Arabic not left to right, but right to left. So they are also looking at the ad right to left. And so they are seeing the guy is happy, drinks this cola, becomes morose and sad. So therefore, how you communicate is very important. And so I found that the Gita is not being communicated as a literature which has practical relevance in your life in helping you control and manage and strengthen your will. I was trying to distribute Bhagavad Gita to somebody in a local train in Mumbai. आपको तो पता ही है लोकल ट्रेन में कितनी भीड़ होती है. So this gentleman looked at me and said, Gita is for free? I said, no, Gita is for 70 rupees. He looked at me and said, Are, Krishna spoke to Arjuna Bhagavad Gita free. Why you are charging 70 rupees? I said, sir, Krishna spoke to Arjuna in Kurukshetra. This is Mumbai. 70 rupees is transport charge. So people do not have a context and idea of what this message is all about. So I realized that the message inside this book is so powerful because all of us cope with transformation changes all the time. And the Gita brings a very, very core point as its conclusion, which is the main cause of fear in life is change. The entire context of the Bhagavad Gita and all of our ancient wisdom is all about how to cope with change, with clarity in consciousness and with concentration and focus, and not remain affected. And so I realized that yes, the modern education system is teaching us how to accelerate and create change. And that change and transformation is important for the world to develop. But sometimes we may become caught by the very change, and that change becomes the cause of great fear. If you introspect, if you analyze in your own life, some of the times when you have been most fearful, it is when you experience the prospect of a change. Change in finance, change in position, change in a particular city, change in health, change in relationships, change in people's social acceptance. Change causes fear. And therefore, Arjuna was faced with Duryodhana and Dushasan standing in front, and Arjuna was ready to fight and kill. Suddenly, Krishna brought the chariot in front of Bhishma and Drona. It was a change. When Arjuna looked at Duryodhana, he wanted to fight and he wanted to kill him. The word Duryodhan means Dur plus Yodhan. Yodhan means to fight. Dur means wrong cause. Duryodhan literally means one who is always fighting for the wrong cause. He has the skill, but he does not know for what cause he should fight. So Duryodhana had dedicated himself simply to fight to protect his own ego. That's it. And it is said that even in the peak of summer, in Hastinapur, in Delhi, Duryodhana would not allow anyone to carry an umbrella above him. Why? Because he would not tolerate anyone above him, including umbrella. That was the extent of his obsession with his ego. So therefore, we find that Arjuna here is experiencing identity crisis. When he sees Bhishma and Drona, he sees his grandfather, he sees his teacher. Should I respect my teacher? Should I love my grandfather? Or should I kill Duryodhana the warrior? He's confused. And therefore changes, confuses us. And so the first sutra for happiness is expectation. That whatever may be the circumstances change, we should be able to face those expectations and reality and come up with new expectations. And therefore, Churchill said success is the ability to grow from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. The ability to go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And this basically has been the USP, the strength of our ancient wisdom in India. And so Krishna explains in the Gita to Arjuna, beyond all the changes you will experience in life, there is a soul within which does not change. And fixed on that understanding, then you perform your duties. Then you will experience a kind of strength which cannot shake you. Therefore, dear friends, stress is created by the gap between expectation and reality. Gita is not saying don't have expectation. Gita is saying have the highest expectation, but when you are faced with a certain reality, you should have the ability and the resilience to bounce back and have fresh expectations. And that is what is the USP and strength of India. There was a German traveler who came to an Udupi restaurant in Mumbai. This was the first time he was visiting India. First time he went to this Udupi restaurant, and many years back they used to serve even in Udupi restaurant on banana leaf. तो केले के पत्ते पे उसको इडली वड़ा डोसा सब दिया, तो सब खा गया वो, डोसा खाया, इडली खाया, वड़ा खाया. Then he did not know what to do with the banana leaf, because it was the first time he was eating on a banana leaf. He started eating that also. And on the way out, the manager asked him, "Sir, how was the food?" And the German traveler said, "The food was good, but the salad was very stiff." So many people who come from different parts of the world, they get confused with India. A country with 155 soil types and more than 3,000 languages. The diversity is mind boggling. But what connects us together is the principle that beyond all kinds of duties and dharmas we follow, we have an understanding of the unchanging soul within and its duty, and that is known as Sanatan Dharma. And therefore, I thought I should try to share and communicate the relevance of Bhagavad Gita and the message of Gita in helping people become more resilient, more focused, and more disciplined and control in their habits amongst the corporates, amongst the students, amongst people in the family. And that's the reason why I decided to take up this life. And that's why I'm here with all of you. So, as part of the escape formula, E stands for loudly expectations. The second part of escape formula is S. S stands for success. Now, many times if you ask people what is success, they'll say to get some achievement is success. But the Bhagavad Gita has a different paradigm of what is success. And Bhagavad Gita defines success as the ability which you have to put in your best effort. If you are able to put your best effort, that is success. And therefore, all of you know the famous shloka of Bhagavad Gita, Karmanye vadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So that's a very, very important principle, that success means the ability to put in our best effort. I was on a program in Microsoft in Seattle, and they took me around the campus in Seattle, and I saw so many Indians. And I said, "Arey, itne Indian dikh rahe, ye to Bombay lag raha hai. How so many Indians?" And the HR person there told me, one thing we have found amongst Indians, they are very good in problem solving. So for software programming, you need problem solving, and they have excellent skills in problem solving. So we hire many Indians. American people, they don't face so many problems in life. So little problem, they get bewildered. But Indians, they keep fighting. And they don't give up so easily. So I was on a train, and there was an American friend with me sitting. Right in front of me, two gentlemen sat in the train. And there was a fan above us, and that fan was not working. Pankha nahi chal raha tha. So one gentleman immediately took out his comb, kangi, which he was carrying. Because of course, I don't carry one. मुझे जरूरत नहीं पड़ती. So he was carrying a comb, and he started moving the fan blades. और दूसरा आदमी जाके फैन का स्विच ऑन ऑफ करने लगा. And as soon as he did that, the fan started moving. As soon as my American friend saw this, immediately he took out his camera and he said, "I have never seen anything like this. I have to take a picture of this. This is awesome. What is this?" I said, "This is traditional Indian technology." And so in 2007, when Lehman Brothers collapsed, at that time, there was a professor of economics who made a report on how the economies across the world are collapsing, but Indian economy is growing. And he said, "You know why?" And he gave the reason. He said, "Jugaad." And Jugaad is a non-translatable word. Unless you are Indian, you don't know what it is. It is a kind of innovation. It is a kind of resilience. It is a kind of thinking out of the box. It's a kind of many things. So I was on a program to IIT Kharagpur, and my flight, it took off from Mumbai, and I had a couple of American friends with me. And we landed in Kolkata. And when we landed and we came out, we were told that today is Bengal Bandh. So we were welcomed with garlands, and when we were told Bengal Bandh, we said, "Oh, program is cancelled because Kharagpur is 3 hours away." But when I came out, I asked the organizers, this program cancelled because of Bengal Band? They said, no, program is on. I said, how will we travel? It's a 3-hour distance. And because of Bengal Band, the vehicles will not travel. And they said, don't worry, we have come to pick you up in an ambulance. I said, what? Ambulance? Said, yes, we will go to Kharagpur in ambulance. There was an ambulance going, and we have diverted it, and we are going along. So when I took my 2 American friends there, they got a little bewildered. Why are we going in ambulance? I said, difficult to explain. Because I have to tell you what Bandh is. And then, on the way, some people may throw stones, but even if they do that, we are in the right vehicle, the ambulance. We'll go to the right destination, the hospital, don't worry. So I was sitting in front, both of them were sitting in the back. After having breakfast, they had garlands around their neck. And then, someone in the middle stopped us and said, I want to see who's behind. I said, go and see. And they went behind and looked inside, and my 2 friends, after taking breakfast with garlands around their neck, were sleeping peacefully. This guy looks in and says, Inki atma ko shanti mile. And within 3 hours, we reached our destination. Out of the box. So therefore, sometimes things will not always work out the way you imagine. But rather than being bogged, will you think out of the box and continue on in the journey? And so in the Bhagavad Puran, the example of Ganges is given. How Ganga Devi flows. Rocks come, but that does not stop Ganga's flow. Ganga Devi moves around the rocks, goes over the rocks, but continues the onward journey. And that exactly is the paradigm of success. Whatever may be the blocks, the circumstances may change, your external progress may change, but your hope, your desire should never stop. And that's where one should remain hopeful and one should continue on. And therefore, dear friends, as per the Bhagavad Gita, the real paradigm of success is that you should continue being optimistic and hopeful in all circumstances. Referring to Krishna Janam in Janmashtami, Krishna was born to Vasudeva and Devaki. But in the Bhagavad Puran, it is described that before Devaki was delivering Krishna, she gave birth to 6 other sons. And all the 6 sons were killed by Kamsa. Right? How many of you have heard this? That 6 sons of Devaki were killed by Kamsa. And this happened in the Mathura jail, where Krishna actually was born, and Kamsa had put Vasudeva and Devaki inside the jail. So I was giving a lecture at IIT on Janmashtami to a students group. And I explained this story. And after my lecture, one student came up to me and he said that if Kamsa knew that the 8th son, जब कंस को पता था कि 8वां पुत्र जो है उसको मारेगा, देवकी का 8वां पुत्र मारेगा, तो कंस ने देवकी को एक जेल में और वसुदेव को दूसरे जेल में क्यों नहीं बंद किया? देवकी और वसुदेव दोनों को अलग अलग जेल में बंद करते तो एक भी पुत्र नहीं होता. कंस को इतना भी आइडिया चमका नहीं क्या? तो मैंने कहा क्या करे सर, कंस आईआईटी नहीं गया था आपके जैसे. But the reason why Krishna appeared after 6 sons of Devaki were killed was to score a very important lesson. अरे एक पुत्र का नाश हो तो व्यक्ति आशाहीन हो जाए, 6 पुत्रों के बाद तो क्या हाल होगा? Krishna wanted to demonstrate that look at the character of Vasudeva, that in spite of circumstances which should make him hopeless, he is still full of hope. So therefore, as we are sharing this discussion just after pandemic, where it was an extremely difficult circumstances for many people, health wise, family wise, finance wise, business wise, many paradigms have changed. And this change has left many people hopeless and helpless. Therefore, it is said that misery is compulsory, but suffering is optional. Rainfall is compulsory, but will I get wet in the rain is optional. Depends on how I carry umbrella with me. So therefore, it's very important to realize that the ancient wisdom of India was focused only on one thing: how to help us immunize ourselves from fear caused by change, and how to remain totally hopeful in all kinds of hopeless conditions. Therefore, the Vedic wisdom was designed to create within us fearlessness and hope. And that exactly is the idea of success. That whatever may be the current circumstances, as it is said, that there may be so many thorns in the life's journey, but you have to pass by the thorns, not press on those thorns. So therefore, the second S, the second part after E is S. S stands for success. And success is to try your best and then leave the rest, and be always hopeful in all circumstances, knowing that there is always a future which can be brighter. In our temples, we do prasadam distribution. Just like in Gurudwara, you do langar, annakshetra, distributing food. So, in many of our programs, when we distribute, 3,000-4,000 people are standing in line for getting the food. And sometimes when you are standing in a long line, the people are in anxiety. अरे मुझे खाना मिलेगा क्या, वहां पहुंचने तक खत्म ना हो जाए. But more anxiety is for the person who's serving, because the server is thinking, अरे लास्ट में अपने लिए कुछ बचेगा क्या. And so sometimes they start serving smaller portions to save for themselves. And then people who are receiving, they come and complain to me that अरे आपका सर्वर जो है सब्जी चटनी की तरह दे रहा है, उसको बोलो ज़्यादा देने. So I look at him and say, oh, there is anxiety about his future. Anxiety about future makes him change his attitude. So therefore he must have an abundant mentality. So what do? उसके लिए मैं प्लेट बना देता हूं पहले से ही, सारा आइटम डाल के प्लेट बना के उसके बगल में रख देता हूं. और सेवा करते करते अगर सर्वर को थोड़ा टेंशन आता है कि मुझे मिलेगा कि नहीं, वो नजर मार लेता है प्लेट पे, और फिर प्लेट देख के उसको लगता है चलो सेवा करते रहो, भविष्य उज्जवल है. जब किसी को समझ गया कि भविष्य उज्जवल है, तुरंत मूड बदल जाता है, वो डबल डबल देने लगता है. और लोग उसको कहते हैं अरे इतना मत दो यार, थोड़ा अपने लिए भी बचा दो. और बोलते हैं अरे सेवा ही परम धर्म है. मतलब क्या मूड में बदलाव आ गया. सो देयरफॉर सक्सेस is to try your best. Karmanyavadhikarasте. So E for expectation, S for success, C as part of happiness formula stands for comparison. So all of us have one of the biggest challenges and problems. It is called comparison. So there is an interesting quote I read. Comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. तुलना करने की जो प्रवृत्ति है, तुलना करने की जो आदत है, वो हमारे सुख को चुराता है. And that's, something all of us have experienced. And therefore, when the social media and internet is making comparison more and more easy, because data across the world is being relayed to you, it has an impact on overall happiness. Because पहले किसी को पता ही नहीं पड़ता था, अपने में मस्त था. अभी चाहे कितना भी कुछ कर लो, 10 लोग आपसे ज्यादा अच्छे, तो वो देखते रहोगे तो हमेशा मायूस रहोगे. One of my friends went to a business conference and he met somebody who gave him a business card. उसने कार्ड देखा, कार्ड पे उसका नाम लिखा था और नाम के नीचे लिखा था एजुकेशनल क्वालिफिकेशन. तो गौर से देखा क्या लिखा है, बोला PhD BF. बोला यार PhD I know, what is BF? He said PhD but fail. बोले यार कमाल है, I have never seen such an educational qualification. He said, what to do? My father wanted me to be PhD. Really? Why? Because my first cousin was a PhD and my other neighbor was a PhD. And there were so many PhDs in our colony. My father said, if you are not PhD, then how we will be able to show our face to others? So for that, I also enrolled PhD. After 2 years of PhD, I realized it is not in my bhagya. So therefore, I dropped out. But then my father was telling, still you should attend conferences and meet all these intellectual people. So therefore, I said, Baba, people will ask for my visiting card, and if PhD is not there, they may think, अरे conference में कैसे घुस गया? So I put PhD. But to be honest, I added BF also. And you know what? Nobody has ever asked me what is this BF so far. Because most people think it is a degree beyond PhD. You are the first person who's asking. Comparison. And it creates so much of anxiety. And it is one of the biggest causes of, suicides among students also. And therefore, all of you who are working in companies, you know that one of the biggest challenges to remain satisfied is this comparison, which creates tremendous issues, tremendous problems. There is a hotel president, in Mumbai, and in this hotel president, which is a 5-star hotel, only few people can afford to eat. Those who can, have the wealth and the money power. But right outside hotel president, one guy put up a thela and started selling vada pav. समोसा और पाव बेचने लगा वो, समोसा वड़ा वगैरह वगैरह ठेला लगा दिया. And he called this thela shop Hotel Vice President. And his marketing pitch was, if you cannot afford the president, come to vice president. So people have a tendency to constantly compare and then feel bewildered. And therefore, dear friends, each one of us has a unique quality to contribute. In whatever position, situation you are in, you have the ability to make a difference. And that conviction is something which we need to have. I'll tell the story of the famous King Ashoka. As I met your honorable CEO, Subrodji, who's also from Bhubaneswar. So from Bhubaneswar to Puri, if you go, Just before entering Puri, there is a bridge called Athara Nala. From the Athara Nala, you can see the chakra of Jagannath temple. So that is like the very entrance. The battle of Kalinga happened in that vicinity. Millions of people were killed. King Ashoka was standing on top of a hill, looking at the bloodshed and the rivers of blood flowing and thinking that, what a great accomplishment I have done. Suddenly, Ashoka saw from the corner of his eye one monk carrying a small bucket of water and a small lota, searching amongst those who are killed or half killed or injured, and searching for those who are still alive and trying to give them water and revive them. That monk was not speaking anything, he was just moving around quietly. When Ashoka saw this, it had such an impact. And Ashoka started thinking, I'm trying to feel successful by killing people and taking away lives. This person, his success is to give life back to people. Ashoka went to this person and said, I also want to follow what you are following. And that is how Ashoka became a Buddhist. And he spread the message across Southeast Asia. And one of the greatest transformation of hearts happened in history without a single word being spoken. As they say, your actions will speak louder than words. So, dear friends, this one monk did not have any weapons. He was not a king. He was not known. He was totally unknown. But because of his absorption and dedication in whatever was his given duty, he was able to make an impact. He was able to create transformation. And dear friends, I am part of ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and we have centers across the world. Almost 750 temples all over the world, 225 in India, and more than 500 across the world in other countries. And I've interacted with, devotees from different nationalities. One problem I see in Indians specifically, because we are so socially connected and socially well knit, Indian community's tendency to compare with others and be affected by that comparison, in my observation, is higher than Americans, than Europeans, than Russians, than Japanese, than others. And we get affected. And that affects the morale, that affects your focus, and that will affect the productivity. That affects relationships. And therefore, we should not try to artificially do something which is not natural for us. And that's what Krishna says in Gita, Shreyan swadharmo viguna swadharmo payabhaya swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharmo bhayava. Arjuna told Krishna, I want to forgive. I will go and become beggar in the forest. Krishna said, Arjuna, you are a warrior. Warrior means you have to fight. Warrior means you will become angry and upset when there is injustice and insult. Arjuna said, no, 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 no. I will now become beggar. Krishna said, if you become a beggar and take a begging bowl in your hand, somebody insults you while begging, you will become angry, you will hit the begging bowl on his head and kill him. Because your nature as a warrior will not change. So don't compare. There was somebody who was giving a talk on how to become expert public speaker to a large audience. 100, 200 people were sitting there, all with the dream, I will become expert public speaker. One guy in the audience, got very inspired. So what was this public speaker trainer, teaching? He said, one of the most important points in public speech is the beginning. The opening of the lecture must be dramatic. And then he said, I say in many lectures something like this as an example. And he said, you should begin your lecture with the following quote: the best years of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who was not my wife. And everybody in the audience became alert. Hey, what is this? This is a scam. And then the speaker said, that woman was my mother. And everybody said, oh, wow, that's a very dramatic way of opening. So that villager took this idea, went to his village and called everybody in the village and said, I have become public speaker. Mera lecture suno. So everybody came. He got on the stage and he said, do you know what? The best years of my life were spent in the arms of a woman who was not my wife. And then he became nervous and he forgot the next line. He was trying to think, अरे क्या था, पंचलाइन क्या था, पंचलाइन क्या था, उसको याद ही नहीं आया. And then he said, and I cannot remember who she was. So he was trying to do it artificially. So let us not try to do something artificially. All of us have a certain duty to perform. Let us try to do our best. I remember when I joined the ISKCON as a monk, one of the first duties I was given was in the kitchen. So 2-3 months after I joined, one more person was sent to me. He was like a 6 foot tall, powerful person who joined as a monk. और उसको किचन भेज दिया. तो मैंने सोचा भाई चलो चपाती बनाने काम आएगा, आटा लगाने, पहलवान है, तो उसको चपाती बनाने लगा दिया. So he came up to me and started complaining after a week. He said, आपको पता नहीं मैं कौन हूँ, गांव में खड़े होकर लेक्चर देता हूँ, पूरा गांव खड़ा हो जाता है. सनातन धर्म का प्रचार करने में इस्कॉन आया, चपाती बनाने नहीं. So I said, why you are telling me? मैं भी तो वही कर रहा हूँ. So he says, नहीं नहीं, फिर भी you have to tell the authorities. सनातन धर्म का प्रचार करने आया हूँ, चपाती बनाने नहीं. Every day he was telling me and telling same dialogue. After 1 week he left. And before leaving he came up to me and said, अगर मेरे को प्रचार करने का चांस मिलता तो रह जाता, लेकिन चपाती बनाने लगा दिया. He met me after 10 years in another program. He came up to me running and said, अरे पता है क्या, आश्रम से निकलने के बाद शादी हो गई, शादी के बाद वाइफ को बैक पेन हो गया, घर पर रोज चपाती मैं ही बनाता. If I had just stayed a little more and tolerated with patience, things may have changed. So therefore, the third part as far as happiness is concerned is C, which stands for comparison. Fourth, A in escape. A stands for appreciation. Do you appreciate what you already have? Do you appreciate you have a proper job with a package and a responsibility and profile? Do you appreciate the fact that you have a body which is functioning, working, healthy? During COVID, I was getting phone calls from millionaires saying, अरे भैया आपके अस्पताल में एक बेड है क्या? I said, अरे आप हमको फोन कर रहे हो? बोले क्या करें? The situation is like that. We have survived the pandemic and we have our organs functioning. Are we able to appreciate this? So therefore, gratitude and appreciation is something which is very, very crucial. And that appreciation is going to be paramount in the ability to cope with current reality. That appreciation is very crucial. There was a lady at whose house one beggar went and he started saying, please give me something, kuch dijiye. And this lady was in an angry mood. She brought out some ash from the sigdi, raak hota na, and she dumped it in his chadar and said, bhag yahan se. get lost. And this beggar folded his hands and said, "Thank you so much. I will come again tomorrow." And she became very upset. "What? Nonsense. I have given you so much of ash. Still you will come tomorrow? Why you will come again tomorrow?" And he said, "My dear madam, I am feeling very happy that today at least you have begun the process of giving. I appreciate that today you have begun the process of giving. Today you have given ash, tomorrow you may give cash." So whatever I receive, am I able to appreciate what I receive? So that's something very important and crucial for us to consider. So many times we are always thinking about what I did not get, and we are not focused on what I have received and what I have got. So just imagine in a city like Delhi, we are breathing, and all of us experienced during COVID how people were begging for a ventilator. So we are taking a breath for granted. In a city like Delhi, in 2016 statistics, 1 billion liters of petrol and diesel was consumed in Delhi NCR. To burn this, you need 15 billion liters of oxygen. To create 15 billion liters of oxygen, you need at least 60 crore trees. And for growing 60 crore trees, you need 47,000 square kilometers, and Delhi NCR is only 1400 square kilometers. So imagine, if we are able to breathe air, are we able to appreciate what we have received? Consider water. All of us have access to water, but do I appreciate a simple thing as water? You may not know that total amount of fresh water is only 2.5%, and 97.5% of water on this planet is salt water. So the fresh water available is only 1.1 quadrillion acre feet. Out of that 2.5%, that is the 2.5%, out of the 2.5%, 99.7% of the fresh water is in glaciers and groundwater. Only 0.3% is in the lakes and rivers which we see outside. But we take water for granted. Just consider our daily life. 3 things all of us consume: soap, shampoo, toothpaste. Every year in India, do you know how much of soap is consumed per annum by our 130 crore population? 770 million kilograms of soap is consumed by India per annum. And considering 30 liters of water used for washing this soap, a total of 14 trillion liters is consumed just for dissolving the soap. If you consider shampoo, and then you consider that you may need, say, 10 liters of water, 0.4 trillion liters of water is used for 194 million kilograms of shampoo used in India every year. And 220 million kilograms of toothpaste is consumed in India every year. And if you consider 1 liter of water, then you have 0.1 trillion liters. So total 14 plus 0.4 plus 0.1, 14.5 trillion liters of water is used just for taking care of soap, shampoo and toothpaste. But the main point I want to make is, this 14.5 trillion liters of water can become the drinking water of 4.63 billion people on the planet. So therefore, when I look at water, am I able to appreciate what I already have? When I look at air, do I appreciate? When I look at my own body, which is healthy and functioning, do I appreciate? So, therefore, a very important ingredient for happiness is appreciation. Appreciation for what we have, and that's for A. P stands for principles. Life should be based on principles. There is a very famous uh, hospital in Las Vegas. And in this hospital, it was found that near death patients in terminal situations in the ICU, they were dying before time. And when they did a detailed inventory reporting, they found that the reason why these patients were dying before time was the nurses in Las Vegas developed the habit of visiting the casinos in Las Vegas and gambling. जुआ खेलना उनकी आदत लग गई. And in the hospital ICU also, the nurses on duty could not resist gambling. और वो पेशेंट्स के बीच में जुआ खेलने लगे. कौन पेशेंट ऊपर पहला जाएगा? बेड नंबर 12, बेड नंबर 13, $500. सट्टा लगाने लगे पेशेंट के ऊपर. And initially it was just like a small thing, but when the stakes increased, when one of the nurses felt she's going to lose the bet, she switched off life support system. तो आपको लगेगा अरे जुआ खेलने में किसका मैं कुछ बुरा कर रहा हूं, मेरे पैसे से खेल रहा हूं, क्या होता है? क्या होता है उसका एक उदाहरण है. So if you think end can justify any means, the whole society will go for a toss. Therefore, dear friends, principles is very important. Another very important point is without principles, you cannot continue relationships. Without relationships, you cannot maintain family. 40% of the children born in the West are outside of marriage. That is the situation of society when there are no principles. Goldman Sachs came with a report that the infrastructure investment required for India between 2015 to 2025 will be up to $1.5 trillion. And they said $800 billion out of this $1.5 trillion will come from family savings. And family savings will only happen when there is a feeling for the family. And therefore, one of the biggest contributors to economy in India is the housewife. Because there is family savings. So I was giving a lecture in Ohio, in America, in one of the colleges. And one student came up to me, started speaking to me in Hindi. I got shocked. I looked at him and said, "Are you American or Indian?" He said, "I'm American." I said, "How do you speak Hindi?" He said, "I was growing up in a very, very multimillionaire family in California. When I was 17 years old, I asked my dad, 'Dad, you gave me everything in life, big bungalow, tennis court, swimming pool, this, that. But one thing you did not give me, what is the experience of family? Because when I was 2 years old, you were divorced. And therefore, now at the age of 17, I have only one unfulfilled ambition, to experience the warmth and the relationships of a family.'" And the father said, "Well, I am too old to give you that." And it's a fact that divorce rate in Luxembourg is 88%, divorce rate in Spain is 65%, divorce rate in France is 55%, divorce rate in Russia is 51%, divorce rate in America is 46%, the global divorce rate is 44%. India still has the lowest divorce rate in the world at only 1%. And at that time, his father said, "Son, go to India." He took a flight, came to India. And he went to one city and went to somebody and said, "If you allow me to stay in your house as a paying guest for 2 years, 2 years only, I want to experience the warmth of family. Just sit around with family members, eat food, experience exchanges. If you allow me the experience of family for 2 years, every month I will give a rent of 1 lakh rupees. That family said, why 2 years? Stay whole life. And they said, if you have other friends also who want to experience family life. So they got another idea, family tourism. So we may take certain things for granted. If you do not invest in certain institutions, those institutions will collapse. And therefore, the experience which employees go through in family affects their workplace. What happens in workplace affects the family. We have to have systems thinking. You can't have isolated way and approach to things. And therefore, a family which prays together, stays together, keep some time for your family where you come together to actually follow certain principles diligently, which is a binder which brings everyone together. And now we come to the last in escape formula. The last is another E, and that E stands for endure. Endure means tolerate. Tantitikshasva Bharata. And that tolerance is very, very important. Why the tolerance is important? Because without tolerance, you cannot accomplish anything. So Krishna says, Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama apaino anityastantitiksha bharata. The appearance and disappearance of summer and winter seasons come and go. Therefore, in your job, in your employment, in your family, in your relationships, many things will come and go. Learn to tolerate. And therefore, you have to recognize that you have limited control over your circumstances. Father was trying to teach son mathematics and said, Beta, how much is 9 multiplied by 8? The son said, 78. Father said, Shabash, beta, take this cookie. Father's friend was standing nearby. He said, अरे 9 into 8 तो 72 होता है, तो 78 बोला, आप उसको कुकी दे रहे हो, क्या मैथमेटिक्स सिखा रहे हो? Father said to his friend, my dear friend, I asked my son same question yesterday. 9 into 8 is how much? Yesterday he said 88. Today he has come to 78. In a couple of days he'll come to 72. Now if I expect him to be Einstein or Newton, that is my problem, not his problem. So therefore, you may have high expectations on someone or something, but ultimately, you have to face the reality. And if you do not have the ability to tolerate, if you do not have the ability to cope with the reality, that is what is called as breakdown. And therefore, it is very important for us to improve our tolerance in all circumstances. So, dear friends, I would like to recap the escape formula and want you to speak out loudly each one of this acronym. E for S for C for A for A for P for, and the last E for endure. And this is an escape formula which is based on the Bhagavad Gita, but presented to you in a way in which you can appreciate and remember and apply in your own lives. And I hope and pray that this particular escape formula will help you implement some of these principles for your own self-transformation and self-development. We have created a beautiful place near Mumbai called Govardhan Eco Village. Because many times in cities you cannot have more than 1 hour, but maybe people want 2 to 3 days, a week. So, based on the principles of Hindu thought, as they say, Hinduism is a way of life. W for wisdom, A for Ayurveda, Y for yoga. Along with that 15 acres of Brinda, we have created a 162 room property, first of its kind spiritual resort in Palghar district, 2 hours from here. And it is known as Govardhan Eco Village, www.ecovillage.org.in. And there, these kind of sessions continue happening all through the year. I would now be showing a small 7-minute clip on the Eco Village, for which we also won a UNWTO award on ecotourism as a catalyst for rural development. Because, dear friends, 6.5 lakh villages are there in India. 80 crore of India lives in villages. And therefore, ISKCON has been active in cities. We thought, my generation, who's the leader now in the global board of ISKCON, let us now enter into the villages also. So the 3 pillars of the Govardhan Eco Village is spirituality, sustainability, and social impact. The entire village has been created based on green building principles, sustainability principles. We are accredited to 5 United Nations agencies. And therefore, it is also it can be called as a Vedic climate change mitigation project. And therefore, ESGs are very important for all the companies. And we also are trying to showcase how spiritual organizations are also trying to contribute their bit as part of Faith for Earth initiatives. And, for those of you who are interested in further knowing and going deeper into principles, I've written a couple of books. First is The Art of Resilience, published by Penguin, and the second also The Art of Focus, which has been released. And in fact, today I am also seeing the hard copy for the first time in the presence of all of you. So, we would like any of you who's interested also. And now I would like you to go through this video, and then after the video is shown, then we could have a question answer session interaction for a couple of minutes. Thank you very much.
Rampant illiteracy, malnutrition, and lack of infrastructure. This is the story of Wada, one of India's most backward tribal areas. However, since 2010, ecotourism has become a lifeline for this region. Govardhan Eco Village's sustainable development model, which is based on harmony with the self, the environment, and the divine, has helped employ over 300 tribal families. More than 60,000 tribals have been provided free medical care.
मोतीबिंदूचं ऑपरेशन झालं मला आता चांगलं दिसतं.
30,000 free meals are provided to school children every day.
मुलं स्वतःहून शाळेत यायला तयार होतात.
Over 60 bore wells have been installed.
पाण्याच्या सर्व अडचणी दूर झाल्या.
More than 300 families received training in organic farming.
आता पैसे येतात आणि बचत पण होते.
Govardhan Eco Village has transformed the lives of the most deprived communities in the world.
And the winner of the 13th UNWTO Award for Innovation in Non-Governmental Organization is Govardhan Eco Village Ecotourism as a Catalyst for Rural Development.
It's my honor and privilege to receive this award on behalf of the land of India. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to UNWTO for giving us this opportunity to share this message of sustainability on a larger scale, especially in this very special year where this year is being celebrated as the year of sustainable tourism. My heartfelt gratitude to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, founder of ISKCON, His Holiness Radhanath Swami, who is the founder of the Govardhan Eco Village, Sanat Kumar Prabhu, who is heading the Rural Development Program at the Govardhan Eco Village, the community of devotees of ISKCON worldwide for their support, to Chitra Vishwanath, who's been our main guide in this project at the Eco Village, to our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji for spreading the message of yoga and the Vedic culture all over the world, and specifically to the Ministry of Tourism for their support, Government of India, and we hope and pray that we'll be able to utilize this honor to spread the message of peace, harmony, and sustainability more and more. Thank you very much.
Govardhan Eco Village is about 2.5 hours northeast of Mumbai in a very beautiful rural village area of Maharashtra. There's a very holy place in India which is considered most sacred to devotees of Krishna. It's called Vrindavan. And in that Vrindavan is a mountain named Govardhan, which represents environmental, ecological harmony with spiritual principles.
This place is very special. Certainly it's unique in India and perhaps unique in the whole world. It's like a retreat center. It's like a spa. It's like an ashram. It's a place that's designed as an experiment to merge environmentalism, animal rights, and bhakti, spirituality, together, and it's working.
Come dance.
The amenities here are of a whole nother caliber. People, when they think of the words India and ashram, they think of harsh and rough living. From the Ayurvedic clinic, which not only gives treatments but also has an Ayurvedic doctor who helps prescribe something that is specific for your dosha. The atmosphere that is created by the founder, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, and the atmosphere that is created by the devotees who work here is palpable. You can feel it in the air.
Originally, I was from Chicago. When I was 19 years old in 1970, I wanted to try to broaden my outlook of life. So I went on a journey. Ultimately, I hitchhiked from London to the Himalayas in India. And as I was traveling, I came to realize that the real social and environmental problems of the world are due to a spiritual crisis. A crisis in what we consider is actually meaningful and fulfilling in our life.
Radhanath Swami is a passionate person. The best passion is compassion, and he has an ample amount of that. And that type of passion is contagious.
Coming here and helping to doing the seva, the service, helping with the cows, helping with to weave mats, helping with make pottery. It's actually fun. It's very simple lifestyle, and I think a lot of us crave that on different levels.
And it's sort of programmed into our culture that you look for recognition. You need it. For me, being here, I see it's far more powerful to be humble.
It was easy to complain about the tiny inconveniences that come with a New York City apartment. Oh, it's not big enough. Oh, the water pressure isn't great enough. When you live in a house that you see built from the ground up, every step along the way, it's very special.
When people come here, we're trying to inspire an educational, experiential alternative of a fulfilling, meaningful, sustainable, healthy life.
Apart from these jasmine flowers which you're seeing, he grows a lot of these ladyfingers, okra. Yeah. So we network with all these farmers so that we purchase them in our kitchen and use them.
Can we get this to the kitchen? We can give them to the, yeah.
And the inspiration of this project, Srila Prabhupada, he called this transformation simple living and high thinking.
We get 3000 millimeters of rain annually. So the rainwater hits against those mountains, the Sahyadri mountain ranges, and flows down and collects here. And it is sufficient water for us to irrigate our fields for up to 6 to 7 months every year. The majority of India's population, which is 1.2 billion, lives in the villages. So one of the very important requirements to develop a village is how can water be conserved.
The process begins here. As you can see, the raw sewage is falling and there are some screens. The first chamber is called screen chamber, where we are trying to separate floating solids. This is the raw water where we began, and this is the treated water.
The uniqueness of this place comes from the fact that every waste is becoming a precious resource. That cow dung becomes a fertilizer for earth. He needs fire or energy for cooking his food, and therefore all of the cow dung we utilize for biogas plant. We need to make houses, so we use the same earth, and we have created 250,000 bricks. We call this a symbiotic recycling model. Flushing your toilet, you are contributing to the growth of a papaya. You are contributing to the growth of flowers.
One of the greatest management gurus says that the greatest management challenge of the 21st century is managing oneself.
Many corporate heads are having seminars and retreats here, and they also see alternative ways by which they could focus their own corporations and feel a real sense of responsibility to humanity.
The thing I'm most compelled to do when I get home is really a seva. It's service. It gets us out of being so self-absorbed.
I always had too much, and now I want to have real simple life, like here. I love simple life, and my goal is to make a simple life in my home.
And if we just refocus our energies with these values, we could transform the world.
Every step that I take, you dance with me.
It's truly a miraculous, magical place on this planet.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
This a situation in Palghar.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So when do you have a visit for visitor? Any?
I mean, it's like any hotel or resort.
Okay.
Open all through the year.
Okay.
And you can go on the website ecovillage.org.in, and there are options for booking and everything.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else has any questions or thoughts? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nowadays, one word is very common.
War.
Word, that is depression. Can you throw some light on it?
Depression.
Because,
On
yes,
depression.
yes.
Okay. Very good point. From the Bhagavad Gita perspective, let me define what is depression. Arjuna, when he was identifying himself as a warrior, his identity is I am a warrior. When he saw Duryodhan, that circumstance confirmed his identity. Duryodhan, warrior, I must fight, I must kill. So, as long as your circumstances confirming your identity, you can be active. Then, when he saw Bhishma, the reality was he is my grandfather. My identity, now grandson. So, if he is grandfather, I am grandson, I must love my grandfather in that identity as grandson. Then he saw Drona. Oh, the circumstances, this is the teacher. My identity with respect to Drona is I am student. So suddenly Arjuna had three identities to choose one from in that situation. Because sometimes you go home and you meet grandfather, your identity matches. Then you go to school, then that matches. You go somewhere else. So therefore we have different spaces. And therefore pandemic became so difficult because you had to juggle within your own home your professional role also and domestic role also. So usually in home you have one identity, in office you have another identity. So for Arjuna on the battlefield, suddenly he had to choose between his identity as a warrior, as a grandson, and as a student. So multiple identities is the greatest cause of confusion. And when Arjuna's identity is mixed, that is the beginning of paralysis. And when you are unable to choose one of the identities properly, you cannot choose the activity because activity flows from identity. Unless the identity is fixed, there cannot be activity. And therefore, the loss or change of identity is the root cause of lack of action. And lack of action or the lack of willingness for action is what is known as depression. And therefore, in today's context, it is said, just because a thought is persistent doesn't make it pertinent. And to be distracted is to be disempowered, and worry is the interest we pay on loans we have not taken. Worry is the interest we pay on loans we have not taken. Somebody was crossing a river in a boat. There was somebody sitting next to him, very hefty guy, and he asked him, "Sir, time kya hua hai?" This hefty guy took his fist, hit him on his head. Damn! Suddenly he got bewildered. Said, "What is the meaning of this?" And the hefty man said, "You asked for a time. This means 1 o'clock. 1 baj gaya." So everybody else started telling this man, "Hey, he has hit you. You asked for a time, he has hit you on the head. If you want, we can support you. Let us show him." And this man was rubbing his head and he said, "मैं तो शुक्र करता हूं कि 1 घंटा पहले टाइम नहीं पूछा." So sometimes circumstances are such that you cannot do anything about it. You have to tolerate. So therefore, one of the main causes for depression is this change in identity. And so the Gita is recommending you remain fixed in your identity as a soul which does not change. And all other identities expect changes. When you do not expect the change, sometimes the impact of the change is greater. So that's the sum and substance of what depression is all about. And 300 million people across the world are experiencing depression. 370 people are committing suicide in India every day. So it's a very important principle to be considered and adjusted. Okay. Any other question or comment anybody else has? Okay, so thank you very much to Mr. Subrota, and we would like to end by showing a small video of gratitude to your firm for letting you know that the contributions which you have made for today's talk is going to be utilized for our campaign called Hunger Free Palghar to support the education initiatives in farmers and their children, and especially the women in the district of Palghar. So this is a small video of gratitude towards what all of you have done today. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji, for making for explaining the for explaining the behavioral changes towards self-development, personally as well as in the professional front also. The escape mechanism was very nicely explained in a very lucid manner, relating to Gita, Mahabharata, and our daily lives, with even with a bit of humor also. So that I'm sure that will remain in our minds for a longer time. And coming to the last part, which I'm really moved, I, along with my colleagues in IRA, we are really privileged that the contribution is being used for a noble cause. So it's really an honor and privilege. And I personally, I saw the clip on Govardhan Eco Village, and I personally plan to visit this resort or eco village, you call it, along with my family. Thank you. Thanks for your time. It's been a wonderful talk, worthwhile, and it's very didactic. It's going to help us in our daily and professional lives. Thank you.
And I want to have the honor of gifting the first copy of The Art of Focus, which is fresh from the press. And the first copy of this, I'm happy to share to Subrata ji.
It's my privilege to receive the first copy from Guruji, but may I kindly request him that I would like to pay for this. Okay?